people about your channel, what you do.
Well, my videos are about Sheffield or any other interesting points, and I talk a little bit about the reset and what they're trying to do, because I'm all for progress. I worked at HSBC for 15 years in IT, so I had a computer from being 12-year-old when people didn't have computers. But I don't think we've progressed the last 30 or 40 years. I think we've actually gone backwards. And I'll give you a point on Sheffield. We had a fantastic tram system that they got rid of the year before I was born in 1963. And it actually carried people in from all points of the city into like a star system right in the middle. So if you're going from one area of the city, you come into the city centre and back out. So they got rid of that. They have replaced it with a super tram, but it goes nowhere near the old tram system. So it only helps probably less than a quarter of the people in Sheffield. So they keep telling us that they want us to actually use as cars less, but we've got no bus service and the tram service doesn't cover Sheffield.
Well, you mentioned the Great Reset there, and Prince Charles at the time, king today allegedly. He's friends with Klaus Schwab and Jimmy Savile. We won't go into that. So there's proof out there that he's part of this bigger problem to a lot of people, isn't it?
Yeah, well, there was an article about King Charles, how he said that COVID could be used to reset the world. This is what people have got to be aware of. It's all being done very subtly, drip, drip, drip. And I think a lot of the younger generation think we moan about the change, but we've seen things how much better they used to be. And everything now seems to be driven by money. Like, we could park at the side of the roads in Sheffield, so you could drive in. You could either park cheaply in a local government car park, or you could just park at the side of the road. So those sorts of freedoms have been taken away from us bit by bit. But it's not just those freedoms, it's many other freedoms.
Someone at Sheffield councillors, as a leader of the Labour, have just stepped down very controversially over the Sheffield tree crisis and other things. Why do you think he stood down on the day of elections or just before?
Well, Labour's putting Sheffield into special measures or something, so they can't think they've got a handle on Sheffield. So they probably think the Greens and the Liberals are having too much say actually in Sheffield. So I think they want to claw Sheffield back. Sheffield Airport were absolutely fantastic. We've been waiting for generations for an airport in Sheffield. It was never going to be like Doncaster Airport, but it would very much complement Doncaster Airport. It actually allowed, say if I was working in the City of London, I could jump on the plane and get into London quicker than I could on the train. So they took away that sort of thing from Sheffield. So if they were forward thinking in Sheffield and I'm backward, why are the council doing the opposite things to a forward thinking person like me?
Well, Fargate in Sheffield, what's currently happening there?
What's currently happening is they're actually repaving it, and I'm not right impressed with the previous set of paving that was done. I think it was done on an Italian type block paving, but there's different variants of it, and it just looks so tacky. It's not because it's been there for 20 years, it looked tacky from day one. Now, I was in Lincoln last weekend to just get a different slant on things, and their streets are paved absolutely fantastically. So it's done like a medieval thing, but modern. And it looks really fantastic. And cars can actually come into the middle of Lincoln and actually park up. So they can park up for an hour, pop to the shops, jump back in the car. There's no charging for it. So at the top end of Lincoln, they're actually encouraging cars actually in.
Some of these shops are shutting down now, probably preparation for repaving, like you said.
Yeah, I mean, we've gone through this before, because at one bit they were going to develop them all, and then they failed on developing them all, but they shut all the shops down. And I think that was what caused this demise of Sheffield, because they basically killed half of the city before they had the money to actually develop it. And some of these crazy schemes, it's all right for the larger companies because they've got the money coming in from various different cities. So if some work's going on in one city, they lose another city. That doesn't matter because they've actually got their eggs in many different baskets. But your small traders that develop from the grassroots in Sheffield, when they do these big developments on Sheffield, they just kill the small businesses every time. These guys haven't got anywhere else to go, or if they've got to refit a shop further away, they've lost all the custom, they've got to then get the custom back or spend a lot of money on refitting a shop.
And they currently spent thousands of pounds recently on them shipping containers. They built it. It were open for how long?
I think it was less than a year, wasn't it?
And what did they do with those containers afterwards?
Well, it's quite funny because there was a big thing about removing the containers. It cost 90 grand to take them away. Now we've got workmen's units looking very much like the units that were there for the actual retail. So what they could have done is they could have took away half of the retail units, left them there for the workmen, and then actually, so they would have cut the costs down on the removal and actually putting the units back there for the workmen. Now, I think this is why the leader of the council's gone on two counts. One is down to the trees, but I think the other one is because it looked like self-sabotage with the units on Fargate. I think it was more like £3.5 million they spent on it in the end. I could be wrong on that, but at the moment, what I'm suggesting to people, the best way to actually get back at the council and show the stupidity is raise freedom of information requests and actually call them out on it. And one of the things I've done, one of my latest ones is, I'm asking them how many roads they've closed down in Sheffield since 2020 using COVID-19 emergency laws without public consultation, and when are they going to reopen those roads. And that's my advice to people. Use the freedom of information request. It takes you 5 minutes, takes them hours of work, and point out the stupidity to them through those channels.
And you're now endeavouring now to ramp up your channel and start pressing forward on these matters now that there's a new king coming in, because you think there's a bigger picture to unravel.
There's definitely a bigger picture. I think we've been through resets in the past. I'm not a great believer in the mud flood and things like that, but I do think they've actually gone through phases of resetting society, and I think things do get buried in the past. So I think when people come up with a mud flood and things like that, I think they're just getting the wrong angle on things. They're not seeing the full picture, and I've proved a little bit of it in Sheffield where it looks like we've had something strange happen, and then you can find the old plans and you can find the old pictures and put it all together, and it's not. It looks like we just the reset society, and we're going more away from small businesses to larger and larger businesses, and I think that's the problem.
As you dig up the past of Sheffield and dig up more dirt, shall we say, on Sheffield, maybe, perhaps.
Definitely.
What are they actually digging up, do you think, on Fargate?
Yeah, well, I'm actually told that Fargate's a burial ground. That's what I've been told anyway. So that there's actually graves under there.
So it's another investigation for you to look into, is it?
Well, there's been tram tracks down Fargate. There's also been previous repaving of it. So if there was any graves, you would have thought they would have actually had problems with it, with archaeological things. So I don't know what sort of things they might come up with. But at the moment, they've put some really strange obstacles around the shops. So it's sort of taking a business away from the shops because it looks like they're closed. So it's not great for that business that's actually located there. And it just looks like nanny state health and safety. You know, it just looks crazy. I've looked at previous stuff in the past in Sheffield, and when they were knocking one of the buildings down, it was actually the old Coles Corner that's actually right behind Mark at the moment. It was a lovely Victorian building, and this guy stood on the top without scaffolding or anything, just knocking the building down. But that was probably quite hairy and dangerous for people, and there would have been accidents. But the extreme of health and safety, it's gone from one extreme to another one. And I think with society, we've got to come somewhere back in the middle. You know, everything is like somebody was saying, Japanese guy says, we throw the baby out with the bathwater far too often, and we've got to find an happy medium all the time. But when we look at Fargate, you'll just see what I'm on about.
So just tell people finally, as we close, your channel, what you do and where you're going with it now.
All right, so I'm working on Sheffield. I love my city. I was born here 1964. We're losing the city. I don't feel it's over for Sheffield, and I feel we can claw it back. I don't want to go back to the past because there were some bad things in the past, but what I do want to do is I want to create a better society for people, and I want to point out the obvious with the resets in Sheffield as I dig into the history, and hopefully what I can do is wake enough people up to what's happening, but at the same time I want to try and put a vision for Sheffield in the future, because I think we can all put our vision for Sheffield. At the moment we've got globalists camped out in the Sheffield. We've got Kate Joseph was one of the people instrumental in the lockdown. She was Taskmaster General for COVID-19. She was party girl in London, while other people couldn't go and see the dead relatives in care homes. She's now Chief Executive of Sheffield Council. They put her on gardening leave when she first got found out, and they paid her far more money than what the average person gets paid on gardening leave. I think she's given some of that money away to charity or whatever, she's claiming that. But we need to get rid of party girl. She's a globalist, but I found out she actually comes from Doncaster, but she's worked in Washington in America, and she's worked in London, and she's there to push the New World Order.
Well, on that note, thank you for introducing yourself and to the viewers watching this, and maybe some people will pop over this channel and subscribe and take a keen interest in what you're unveiling.
Yeah, thank you, Mark.